All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have just joined, feel free to play a little bit of Mad Libs and throw what you are up to in regards to community management. Feel free to fill in the blank of I am the community manager for. What community are you responsible for either now or in the future? So glad you're here. Good morning, good afternoon. And if you're watching the recording, I know that so many of you are going to ask me if this is being recorded and posted. And yes, of course, we will record and post and share on our Viva Engage blog and the YouTube and everywhere in between. So thank you so much for joining us. Just a couple of housekeeping things as we kind of get started. If you have questions during this session, we would love to answer them. Use the Q&A across the top to post your questions as they come up all throughout the session. We've got lots of polls. We've got lots of things that we want you to stay interacted with us as well as the presenters. So please put your questions up there. Because of how many folks are going to be joining us, it will be very hard for us to keep track of the questions coming in the chat. I know with a group of community managers like yourself, as a part of this conversation, I know the chat is going to be super busy and we want it to be busy. So definitely if you want your questions asked and answered by some of our product experts who are joining us, please use the Q&A. The other thing I was going to say is if you can all just try, I know that you know where this is, but because this is a virtual session, we want to make sure that you're paying attention. If you see something you like or curious about or think it's really interesting or a good nugget that the instructor had said, will you guys just do a quick check to make sure your reactions are working? Do a thumbs up, heart, plus, clapping or laughing. I know some of you might raise your hand instead. We probably won't have time for live Q&A, so definitely figure out where the raise hand button is versus the reaction. I don't know if you're guilty like I am for that as well. So if you don't know where you are, or if you can't remember how you got here, welcome to the Monday Masterclass with the Viva Engage product group. We're so excited that you're here. This is week 2 of a couple different weeks, but we're just really excited. We've got Anna and Adrian and Wole and myself on the line to kind of share and show best practices and some advice for community management, kind of from at the community perspective. If you don't know kind of where this fits in the bigger picture, you are here. You are at week 2 of the Masterclass series. So there are some things that we're not going to talk about today because we're going to go dive head first deep into, for example, live events or training and adoption or analytics. I know so many of you ask me questions about analytics. We're going to have an entire session where you will literally get schooled by our data analytics team about that as well. So if you haven't joined the other sessions, definitely sign up for them. You can also see the first week's recording has already been posted. I will drop that in the chat as well. If you missed it, feel free to catch up on that. And you for sure can also pass it along to your IT folks and friends if you're not in IT. That one was a very heavily IT focused one. And we really talked a lot about kind of that governance piece as well. All right, so what in the world are we going to be talking about today? I'm signed up for all 6 sessions. I'm so excited that you are. We were trying to decide if we figured out a program, maybe a passport or something that we could give you all if you attended all 6 sessions, but alas, we couldn't figure that out. However, we did include a hashtag for today's class, so if you do learn something, we'll have time throughout this class and kind of a minute to reflect and think about if there's something that you want to try with your own communities as well. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to kind of dive in really deep and talk about community kind of at that singular or that group of community level. We'll think about community management and different types of communities. We'll help you get started and some of the best practices that we know from working with customers kind of all across the world. And then we'll give you tips for engagement. And then hopefully we will definitely spur some ideas and give you some creative ways to spark some conversations in your community. We'll also talk a lot about the Copilot adoption community. If you haven't set that up yet, we'll talk a little bit about how to go ahead and set that up. This is a ready-made community that you can kind of lift up and take from, it's already existing, and then you can kind of continue on with your Copilot journey. And then we'll talk a little bit about building knowledge and what that looks like from a community perspective. There's some really great and new tools in your toolbox that you already have access to that you should definitely be using as a community manager from a knowledge perspective. And then finally, we'll have resources and some kind of wrap up. As we go through this, we have a little bit of a key, and I'll kind of post this in the chat as well. If you see, a couple of different symbols, we've got a Copilot symbol. We've also got an M365 kind of circular symbol, as well as the Viva V icon as well. So most of the capabilities that we're going to show you today are already included in what you own from a Microsoft 365 perspective. And we will show you a few capabilities that you will have as community managers if you have the additional licenses that come with Viva, CNC, and the different community CNC or the Viva Suite licensing as well. My enthusiasm is infectious. It's because I love this stuff. It is truly a passion of mine. I love community inside, outside, upside down, and I do a lot of this on my own time as well. This is something that's really important to me as a person, and I love that it can translate as a product perspective. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I see so many familiar names. It's so glad you're all here. We are going to just kind of take a little bit of a step back if we think about community management and what this really means and why you all, community managers at various organizations, at various scales, at various sizes, various different communities, why it's important to kind of show up. And we're also going to talk a little bit about what you already know from community management based on the things that you already are doing today as well. So we will just kind of lay the foundation here as I take a breath and as we kind of think about what this really means. You as community managers, you lay the foundation and the expectations of the members within your community. You're leading by example, whether or not you know that or whether or not you're expecting that, you are definitely leading by example. So what does this look like, or what could this look like? This could be you as a community manager might have a few people on your team. And if you don't, I highly recommend recruiting a few people to help you manage the community. You are also, you're given the opportunity to liaise with other business groups and other groups across the organization to help kind of make sure that the business strategies are kind of shared across and that your community is showing impact. And then, of course, the impact, measuring the value, deciding where you're going to go next with your community and what your community needs at that time. When I think about community management, and community managers, I have a couple of different metaphors that I like to think in my mind. Last year, I think it was last year, I tried my hand at gardening, and I will be the first to say that this was really hard, and I did not understand how hard it was. If any of you have gardened before, give me a thumbs up because it was definitely hard. I didn't realize all the tools and the planning that were really important to the success of my garden. So very similar in the way that you think about community management, we've got tools that help you all determine how to plan, how to be thoughtful about some of the things that go on in your communication, in your community. We also have ways, I'll say, to remove some of the weeds that happen in your community as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that too, from a moderation perspective, if there's misinformation or things like that. I can't even get a cactus to thrive. Yes, I definitely thought that too. And what about some of the benefits of community management? Maybe I'm speaking to you and you're like, why is this important? Or maybe you already know this to your core and you need help convincing others why this is important. We know that a garden without a gardener is kind of just, at best, you might get a few weeds, maybe a few fruit, but somebody who's being thoughtful and planning and being purposeful, connecting people, measuring the impact truly does help measure and kind of mature your community from beyond what you're thinking about. Also, I think building that perspective of the knowledge, using the question and answer capability is a huge value add for a community manager. The next kind of community manager type, I don't know if you relate to this at all. I love to host people. I love to plan parties. I know, I'm sure you're not shocked at all. And so what I wanted to just kind of relate this to a community manager is it's very similar to maybe hosting a dinner party. And maybe it's not a wedding or the fanciest dinner party. Maybe it's just a potluck. And we know that as a community manager, you're the one that welcomes people to your community, you're including them, you're making sure that everyone has a place to sit and something to drink and something to eat, and what that could look like from a community manager perspective. So maybe this is what it looks like. You're modeling the expected behavior, you're welcoming new members, you're finding interesting content or conversation starters. You're sharing success and you're finding other people that can help you kind of along the way. So you're not always the one hosting book club. I don't know if I'm the only one that always is the one that ends up hosting book club or not, but that always happens to me. So I always need to find others that can help kind of continue that sharing of hosting as well. The next kind of mindset I want you to think about is a conductor. Maybe your community needs a conductor. You need someone kind of in the background orchestrating and harmonizing all the different voices and opinions that are happening in the community and really thinking about it from a shared knowledge perspective. When we think about this, are the people, is it very, very similar voices always talking? I'm sure you've been to a concert before where it's either a solo artist versus an orchestra. How can you be thoughtful about that as well? I also want to just say, from a conductor perspective, if somebody's a little off, there can definitely be risk from a community perspective. Maybe there's not enough business need for that community, and you're really trying to make sure that you're proving the value. What if, a community is just kind of left to just do whatever they want, which could be fine for certain communities, but for other communities, you might need a little bit more help, especially at the beginning as they're kind of getting off the ground. All right, and the final one that I like to kind of think about, especially from a knowledge perspective, is the librarian. If there was a library influencer program, that would be me. I love books. I love the library, and I love as a community manager as an opportunity for you to categorize, for you to share content, for you to pick out the right kind of articles and conversations and really curating those conversations for your community, really making it accessible and useful for all community managers. So I love that, thinking about it from a librarian perspective of the way they categorize information, and a couple of the ways that they find information. So similarly, you all already should have tools in your community manager toolbox to be that librarian or the conductor or maybe a party host as well. So there's all sorts of different opportunities for you as community managers to really think about what are the tools that you already have at your disposal that are already available to think through how could you start categorizing conversations, how could you start really focusing the conversations or adding experts to your communities as well. So I land all that to say, before you all ask me, but what tool do I use? I know you're going to ask me. Put a reaction if you're thinking this. But wait, I already have fill in the blank. Were you all going to ask me that? I knew you would. But before you ask me that, I have a super sample way, and I'm just going to leave it here. Feel free to take a screenshot. This is no this is not a the end all be all. This is something that we put together, that we started to kind of plot out of what tool when. I know this has been asked many years, but I just wanted to say this is something that our team has worked with folks on, of deciding, is a community the right place, or is a giant group chat good enough? Or does it need to be an email? So I just wanted to kind of level set that before we got too far in, before you all said, but wait, what other tools should I use? And I'm just going to kind of say, if you, which type of community manager do you most relate to? Are you the conductor, the party host, the librarian, the gardener? Maybe you're the gardener. Tell us in the chat below. When we think about these, I'll just kind of say, and we're going to have Adrian walk through each of these different types of communities. We know at Microsoft, working with so many customers from around the world, that majority of the communities that we see our customers build fall into these groups, kind of all across the world. And so we think about department ones that mirror your M365 groups. They mirror your organizations, your divisions. Membership is assigned. We also see different support and shared services, communities of practice, as well as special interest groups like the foodies or the dogs at Microsoft as well. So hopefully you are starting to kind of see yourself in a community manager role. I'm going to pass it over to Adrian as she kind of walks through the different types of communities. Adrian, will you go ahead and introduce yourself as I pass it over?
Great. Thanks, Allison. Hey, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're dialing in from. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I'm Adrian. I'm a product manager on the team, and I'm going to walk you through the different types of communities. And then you'll see me again later to talk about Copilot adoption community specifically. All right, so let's dig in here. As many of you know, Viva Engage really aims to connect people across the whole organization and to help those folks connect with their leaders, to help them find specific knowledge, but also to connect with other people in the organization around shared needs or interests. And communities are a very strong vehicle for creating those connections. And communities come in a number of different flavors to really help support different business objectives, to help enhance the employee experience, and to really help people build that sense of belonging within their organization. So, as Allison alluded to, these are some of the different community types that we've seen be successful both within our own network at Microsoft and in customer networks over the years. These communities can be created in both a bottoms-up crowdsourced manner or in a top-down manner, but we've seen the most effective organizations will typically have a strategy on the types of communities that they want to foster intentionally, but also leave a lot of room and space for employees to build up their own communities that help them further their own professional and personal interests. So we'll go ahead and walk through some of these, starting with the organizational communities that really kind of mirror your organization's layout and structure to support and shared services, helping smaller groups scale to the broader organization. Communities of practice that really, I think, just bring people together in incredible ways to help connect with experts, expertise, best practices, and more. The D&I groups that help bring together people around a shared topic, but also something that is usually intrinsic to who they are. And then employee interest groups that are really about connecting people and their passions. So let's go ahead and start with organizational communities. Really, here, the shared element is usually either the leader or the org structure itself, some department or division. And sometimes in companies, particularly like retail, for example, it might be a location or a particular store that's kind of your organizing factor here. I would say typically we see that these are set to private to really encourage open sharing. And in some organizations, they must be set to private to make sure that information is, kept within a specific organizational boundary. With these communities, we give you two super easy ways to manage membership. You can either set up the community to use dynamic group membership rules, Or you could use the group membership management tool that I know Allison and the team went over in great detail in our first session around administration that was a couple weeks ago. You also have the other standard tools at your disposal, like CSV upload to work, manage that community membership as well. So typically the pattern that we see these types of communities follow is that they'll start as more kind of newsy channels where leaders and their delegates are really kind of setting the tone with intentional sharing. But over time, and with some prompting from the LT and their admins, these will usually evolve into a space where people will come share knowledge, join events, but they'll also share their own news or their, hey, we just shipped this new feature, or, oh, we saw XYZ happen with a customer. So their own updates and exciting news as well. All right, let's move on to support and shared services. These communities are really, really critical, and I think can, really help smaller groups respond and scale to the needs of the organization, specifically because these communities really effectively capture knowledge, and that knowledge capture helps that small group support a very large group very effectively. So the common pattern that you'll see here is that these communities are typically public and they're usually marked as official so that they're easier to find. And the service team members, maybe this is your HR group or your travel group, are typically the community admins. And it's the investments that we've made in knowledge that Wooly's going to talk about towards the end of this that really make these communities super effective. So the Q&A format, first and foremost, the ability to mark a best answer makes it easy to find the best information on that question. The top Q&A module gives really quick access to anybody who's maybe new to the community to the top questions and most commonly asked questions, which again really takes a load off of the shared services team to have to answer that same question over and over again. And then when somebody comes in to ask a question as well, as they're typing their question, they'll see related Q&A. And then another pattern that we tend to see in these communities is that over time, typically you'll start to find people who are either really passionate or very frequent members of this space who can become community experts and will eventually start to take even more load off of the admins. So a great example of this that I like to tell folks about in our own company is the MS travel community. So people will definitely come here to ask all sorts of questions about their specific trips or a travel policy or a benefit. And they can get support from the MS Travel team directly. But the more common questions will usually be addressed by some passionate travelers. And sometimes these questions now start to verge into community of practice, like, who has uh, the download on the best lounge in Heathrow, right? Or, how can I connect this with my own point system, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where that like boundary between organizational support and passion starts to come into play with those experts. All right, let's go ahead and talk about communities of practice. These are my favorite, and honestly, I believe that they're truly the bread and butter for the organization. That they're the place where people connect around a shared interest or need, sometimes related to their daily work. Some of these you may see marked as official, but truly, even though most of them probably won't be, the value in these communities is tremendous. They can truly run the gamut from, say, a passion in sustainability where the community brings together people who are, like-minded in their interest to bring sustainability into their work and daily life practices. Or it could be something like we have internally a community for MS teams, where the field and our customer success managers, along with product managers and engineers, all come together to share updates and insights. And it's actually truly bi-directional in terms of gaining insights. So the product managers want to know more about what's happening with customers, and the customers want, or the customer success managers and the field folks want the inside track on what's coming next. So I'd say again, a hallmark for these communities is knowledge capture through discussion, explicit Q&A, and AMA events, but really, it's just this open space for people to connect around this shared topic or this shared need or interest, and having this available that is just so valuable. Because then, as this information gets indexed by search and Copilot, right, you start to bring people in from broader spaces around the organization where people are looking for this knowledge and finding it in this shared community space. All right. And then let's go ahead on to diversity and inclusion. So again, DEI communities, these can look very different depending on the organization. Some orgs have a very strong DEI culture, and you will typically find that then these organizations are created and managed centrally, probably marked as official, and at least the initial membership is seated by the organization. And in some companies, it's really a grassroots effort. And, people are treating these more like a community of interest or a community of practice around, some, shared element of your culture or your person. And these will typically be run by a group of passionate volunteers. But in some organizations, like we talked about, it is more official. And, there it's treated more like, community management is part of your day-to-day job as well. Um, these communities, I think they really thrive with kind of open discussion. So again, depending on the sensitivity and the topic and the people involved, they may either be public or private. And AMAs and shared events can really help bring together the members of these communities. And finally, employee interest groups. These are usually public, bottoms up, grassroots type communities that help bring together people from across the community to connect around a shared interest. And I will say, as a member of a number of these communities, I absolutely adore them. But truly, the organizational value here comes from the networking that occurs, right? So being able to connect with people across the organization that you didn't know, you oftentimes will find that, say you have to reach out to somebody in another group and you realize, oh, hey, we have this shared interest in common. It creates this foundation for working that you wouldn't have in any other space. Some of our or my favorite communities of interest in the Microsoft network are foodies. We have some very passionate foodies around here who share amazing recipes that just tantalize the taste buds. And then dogs at Microsoft. If you ever need to pick me up, there's a lot of very, very cute doggos hanging around. And so, those are, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, but it's just enough to just really give you that feeling of connection, especially in a remote or, diverse workforce. All right, and then last but not least, just a little shout out here. We've talked about this a number of times while we were discussing communities, but do not forget this tool in your toolbox to create official communities that you can use to curate your network and make it employees to find the right official spaces. And with that, I'm going to hand us over to Anna, who's going to talk about creating and managing communities.
Hi, everyone. It's so good to see everyone and see all the great energy in the chat. I'm Anna Pope. I'm a product manager on the communities team. And today I'm going to cover getting started with community best practices, how to grow engagement, and moderation. So let's begin with ways you can grow adoption and engagement in your community in the 4 planning pillars you see here. For adoption, we're going to touch on how to add new members and introduce them to the community. We'll also give you engagement tips based on research and feedback from our most successful community managers, including when and what to post to drive engagement. As the community manager, you will directly contribute to your community's success through speedy responses. On average, community managers respond to conversations 2 times as fast as any other user. Next, for growth, it's helpful to identify places you can promote your community inside and outside of Engage. For example, you can identify events or milestones in your organization where you can promote your community, such as town halls or new hire onboarding. And last, you will want to plan for content. Within the most highly engaged groups, community managers establish daily, weekly, and monthly routines to consistently review content. And today, we're going to give you some great ideas to help you craft resonating content, including how to use Copilot for that help. So as you begin to plan your community, you'll really want to be intentional about how you want your community to be successful. Our research has showed that initial setup of new communities is a vital period when community managers need to take a hands-on approach in establishing guidelines and culture. Within the Viva Engage network, we found that communities with the most engaged members have community managers that establish the group's purpose through clear posting, practices, and direction. Eventually, you'll see your community, it will evolve organically so that the members drive culture collectively. But in the beginning, you as a community admin are key to helping your community mature and grow to a self-sustaining state. Thinking through these items, such as what kind of activities, stories, and posts you expect, will help you establish goals that set your community up for success right from the beginning. So let's take a deeper look at how you can build your community with intention. As you are thinking about audience, you'll want to consider who you're building your community for and what purpose you want it to serve for them. To help your content resonate with your audience, consider who they are. And to help you, you might think of a few specific people in your organization and talk with them about what they want to get out of a community. So let's take a look at an example. If you wanted to start a community to support people managers, put yourself in the shoes of that newly hired manager. Some things to outline are the types of insights that might support them in their roles, such as having a place to ask questions, sharing challenges, or connecting with potential mentors. Next, consider if there are milestones that your community can help support, such as the promotion cycle, new hire onboarding, or communicating organizational changes. And last, think about how you can use your community to share newsletters or communicate about required training. And remember, you're not on your own. This is a great place to gather feedback from these people in your organization, and you can always ask Copilot or whatever AI assistant you use for help. And here's a bonus exercise if you really want to go the extra mile. You can use this community canvas to facilitate a learning session with your community members. In addition to prompts that help you understand members and outline community purpose, it also helps you identify your success metrics for your community, roles, and guidelines to help you prepare. A tool like this will help you build a solid foundation prior to launch, or you can use this as a relaunch for an existing community. So now you've developed a deeper understanding of your community's members and mission, so you're ready to create and customize your community. These steps are a checklist of best practices to ensure your community is set up for success from the beginning. This is a great time to use Copilot to get started quickly too. After you select to create a community, you'll want to use the description field to outline the purpose of your community. This will help people quickly understand more about how to use the community. You'll also want to upload a photo and a community avatar. This is a place that I love to use Microsoft Designer to create these beautiful custom banner images in a flash. Next, go to the About tab and add rules of engagement in the info box. You can also add links to important resources that you want to be highlighted, including related communities. You can also use community settings to match the specific needs of your community. Wole will dive deeper into these in the knowledge section later today with specifics on when you want to change your default post type to questions. So now that you've filled in some basic information about your community, it's time to start adding members. First, you want to ensure you have at least 2 admins in your community to help manage tasks such as adding members or moderation. Next, you can invite people in a few different ways. You can search for people by name, upload in bulk using a CSV, or use M365 dynamic groups to manage community members. Depending on your organization, you may want to work with your network admins to use dynamic group membership. And third, you'll want to identify experts for your community. And again, Wole is going to give you a deeper dive into all of this later today. So it is time for your first post, and you'll want to welcome your members with an introduction post. As a community manager, you have the opportunity to really make an impact. Our research has shown that community managers get 1.5 times more replies on their posts than any other typical engaged community member. Our data shows that you will see even greater engagement on posts that use rich media like images or GIFs, or by using different post types. So don't forget, again, to use Copilot to help you craft those posts. I have my favorite sample prompt below where I include context about my community and ask for a call to action. And Engage has some great features to help content stand out in your community, including our recently launched multi-pin carousel, where you can pin up to 6 posts to the top of your community feed. I saw someone in the chat today called that the community's buffet. I really love that. It's a great way for people to highlight things for people to get some value out of your community when they first get there. So speaking of different post types, Engage has so many options to drive engagement within your community, and you'll get different types of results with each of them. Research has showed us that the most successful community managers post questions, polls, and praise posts to boost interaction. For example, question post types get 70% more replies than discussion posts, which is a great segue into our next section, which is about driving engagement. So these are some proven engagement tactics that our most successful community admins have used. As we mentioned before, having a simple engagement plan is key. And I know I sound like a broken record here, but Copilot can help you here too. And Copilot can help you plan a content calendar for you, your fellow community admins and leaders, so you can ensure your community has fresh content. Live events are also a great way to keep your community thriving as well. After your event, your community is the perfect place to keep the conversation going with recaps and learnings. And next, I do want to highlight that we've seen that leaders play a critical role in driving community engagement. Recruit leaders and their delegates to be engaged in your community. You can remember the 1, 2, 3 rule when it comes to leaders or yourself as community admins driving engagement. For every 1 post, reply to 2, and react to 3 to keep encouraging people to be active in the community. Last, sometimes you might want to resort to meeting people where they're already working in email and Teams to share about the community. So if activity is low, you can always use these channels to share about upcoming programs and events. So you might want to grab a screenshot of this. We put together this community admin checklist to make it easy to keep your communities thriving. These are best practices we've heard from community admins just like yourselves, including regularly welcoming new members, moving off-topic posts to the correct community, and checking for unanswered or unresolved posts. Remember that adding a comment or reaction to posts goes a long way to encouraging people to keep sharing in your community. So now I'm going to talk about conversation starters and rituals to keep content fresh and engaging. As you're thinking about growing engagement, conversation starters with clear calls to action are key to helping members get active in the community. Depending on the tone of your community, you might even want to have fun with it. Encouraging people to share photos is a great way to mix it up. Here are just a few example conversation starters. These themes that you see here of connect, career, and reflection will resonate broadly with your audience. And you'll notice that all of the conversation starters in the connect and career related examples here all have questions, which are key to helping people get engaged. And so for those of you that have managed communities before, I would love to see you share some of your favorite conversation starters here in the chat. And so here we have an example of using Copilot to get ideas to draft conversation starters. Just add some context about your community, such as who the members are or what the community is about to generate content ideas. Remember that questions are key, so I've asked Copilot for a clear call to action. And what you see here is a real response from a prompt for conversation starters for professionals that support customers. Almost all of these are ones that encourage people to share knowledge or experiences that can help other members in their roles, which creates even more value for your community members. Rituals are another community admin superpower you can leverage to keep people coming back to your community. Rituals are weekly posts of the same type. As a tip, you might want to think about the things that are trending in social sites and how they might apply to your community. People here at Microsoft love Favorite Photo Friday in some of our communities. So here's an example prompt to use with Copilot for coming up with fun rituals. You can also add more information in your prompt about your community, such as help me make a content plan for a marketing community. And again, what you see here is a real response that includes rituals that align with each day of the week. As we've mentioned before, planning ahead will help you keep your engagement plan on track. Scheduling your posts around when your audience is most active will help your content reach more people. And since we've got all these people joining today, I want to give you a pro tip on when to post. Tuesdays are the best day to post for the highest engagement. You can also use your community analytics to identify patterns of when posts reach more people to inform your schedule. Okay, so now we're going to dive into how to use different features for engagement in your community. Announcements are a proven method to grow reach of your posts. You can mark any type of post as an announcement, and all communities will see a notification in Outlook and Teams. To do this, after you've typed out your post, question, praise, or poll, you want to select the announcement option. And so here's another tip. For extra important announcements, you can use the option to send emails immediately. This will send emails to all of your members, even ones that have opted out of email notifications from Engage. Polls are also a great tool to create surveys and get answers fast. You can even use Copilot to help you craft poll questions and choices. And then if I want you to take away one thing about a type of post to use, make sure it's praise. Communities are the perfect place for recognition. Praise posts get 2 times as much interaction than regular discussion posts. That's because everyone loves to celebrate wins. You can praise multiple people in the same post. And here's another tip. When sending praise, you might want to tag people's managers so they can see the great work their team is doing, and add a picture or a GIF so it really stands out. We've recently introduced articles to our CNC offering, which is the perfect post type for long-form content such as project updates, blog-style posts, and highlights. Articles support inline pictures to bring content to life. To use articles, questions, polls, or praise post types, all you need to do is select your desired post type in the publisher window. Campaigns are another capability that's part of the Viva CNC licensing package that helps to promote community engagement. They can be network-wide or scoped to a single community. Campaign posts are identified through hashtags so you can set and track campaign goals and monitor analytics. The example here highlights a Copilot adoption campaign where people are encouraged to share their favorite prompts. It's a great mechanism for members to discover and share similar content. If you're interested about learning more about campaigns, make sure to tune into our Corporate Communicator Masterclass that's coming up in a few weeks. But wait, there's more. Topics are another tool to help organize, curate, and connect knowledge across Engage. Users can subscribe to topics so they can receive notifications about the information that's most important to them. You can even pull in posts related to topics into your SharePoint sites using the Viva Engage SharePoint web part. To help you work on your content plan, you can use this Copilot prompt to get ideas for hashtags and campaigns in your community. Just give Copilot more information about your community and let it do the work for you. In this example, I've asked Copilot for ideas about new hires, products, and spotlights. And this is a real Copilot generated response that includes ones we know community managers are already using, such as Throwback Thursday and Welcome Wednesday. You can also use events to foster connections and collaboration. People can join these from Teams or Engage. And events feature Q&A, which allows attendees to ask and answer questions in real time and after the event. Captions and translation break down barriers for global audiences, and you can record events for future reference or easy viewing for different time zones. Events are such a great tool. We've dedicated an entire upcoming masterclass to them, so make sure you check out that one to learn more. And the last feature I want to highlight to grow engagement is Community Insights. Insights empower you to measure and analyze community growth effectively. By tracking metrics such as new members and active participation, you can gain a deeper understanding of your community. The dashboard you see here shows key metrics, including member activity trends and community reach, which are key to understanding engagement. Additionally, recognizing trends and catalysts such as top conversations and active contributors helps you identify what drives participation and knowledge sharing. You can also export this data for deeper analysis for data-driven decisions to foster a thriving community. As you review your conversation analytics, you'll notice some things help posts stand out to your audience. Here's another example of how you can use Copilot to learn best practices to make your content more engaging. Some of the ways that we recommend include using visuals, being concise with simple messaging, and engaging with your commenters to drive conversation. I know that I covered a lot of ways you can contribute to your community by posting today, but I want to close this engagement section by reminding you that you don't need to feel pressured to start every conversation. As a community admin, your most important job is to be present and engage with members to create community and belonging. And this can be done through reacting, commenting, and sharing as well. Additionally, as your community matures, you will have engaged members that will start to organically take on many of the tasks we've covered today. You may even want to recruit some of them as community admins or experts to recognize their contributions and motivate them to stay active. So moderation is also a key activity for community admins. I'm going to close this section with some tips and tools you can use to moderate your community. Effective management of conversations is important for fostering a productive and psychologically safe community. These best practices ensure discussions remain focused and relevant. One proven best practice is to tag people in the comments to help posts get more engagement and encourage people to keep sharing to engage. The features you see here that are highlighted are also some useful tools for moderation. First, moving conversations to appropriate communities will help keep posts on topic to align with the purpose of the community and also help your community members discover other relevant communities. Sharing conversations will also boost reach across communities so that important information can get to the people that need it. And last, there may be cases where closing conversations is necessary if the topic has been clearly addressed or is otherwise not aligning with your community goals. In large public communities, you want to also prepare for diverse personalities to keep your community focused and productive. You might recognize some of these types of members highlighted on this slide. The main thing you want to remember is that a one-on-one conversation can go a long way towards coaching people towards the behaviors you want to see and avoiding the ones that might distract from your community's goals. Overall, fostering an environment of constructive feedback and awareness is key to maintaining a respectful community. You may also want to prepare for navigating sensitive conversations. This is a time when it's essential to be tactful and diplomatic, and leading by example is going to be crucial for you as a community admin. Our research has shown that by sharing well-structured and appropriately toned messages, you set a standard for others to follow. We recommend that you take some time to understand the policies in your organization for handling inappropriate content, but remember, you're not in this alone. We also have tools such as keyword monitoring and reporting conversations at the network level to help users report and admins monitor for inappropriate content. And last, and most importantly, celebrate and recognize what you want to see in your community by publicly acknowledging and thanking members for their contributions. This will foster a positive community atmosphere and encourage similar behavior. Here are some additional tips for moderation. Being proactive is the first step. We definitely recommend setting up email notifications for new posts so you can stay informed and address issues promptly. Next, if concerns arise, it's beneficial to reach out to individuals directly for a one-on-one conversation about their concern. You may want to encourage members to edit their posts or relocate them to more suitable communities. Closing conversations respectfully is also another way you can maintain a positive environment. And last, we consider deleting posts as a last resort, but it's sometimes necessary to maintaining a positive community. And so because navigating these challenging discussions can be tricky, especially when there are no clear answers, we put together some thoughtful responses that can help maintain a constructive dialogue. We recommend keeping a cheat sheet of these types of phrases handy so you can respond with speed and consistency. For example, acknowledging the complexity of a situation and communicating that feedback is being considered will help people feel heard. And you want to remember that silence can be interpreted as indifference. So it's vital to express that you're listening and taking concerns seriously. And last, I have to leave it by saying that Copilot is a great tool to help you craft thoughtful responses to sensitive conversations. And so thank you all very much. That's a wrap on getting started, growing engagement, and moderation. And now, Allison, back over to you.
All right, actually, Adrian, if you want to take it, and then we're going to take a 30-second pause, and we have still so much to cover, but one of the things that I wanted to show is just a quick check. If you wanted to, if you wanted to post something that you've learned or something that you are going to take away from the class, definitely post it on LinkedIn or share with our customer community. So, all right, I just wanted to say that really quick. And use the VE Masterclass hashtag or tag myself or any of our product managers to kind of get you in the loop. All right, Adrian, take it away for the Copilot community.
All right. So I'm back to talk about the Copilot adoption community. So we've talked a lot about community management here. And, I think this is also top of mind for a lot of folks too, is that we're just in the midst of an absolutely tremendous amount of change right now with AI, excuse me, in the workforce, and technology is just evolving so rapidly that it's hard to stay on top of how best to incorporate it into our daily lives. It's already hard enough to manage change, and it's even harder to manage change when it's occurring as rapidly as it is right now. And so, given all that we've talked about with like active community management and how communities can help inform best practices and drive change, we want to talk about what we've done to make your lives easier with this specialized community that we've put a lot of thought into to help really like take the load off of community managers. So, for those of you who have not yet seen or heard of this, we GA'd this capability back in August. It is the Viva Engage Copilot Adoption Community. It is a pre-seeded community that comes with a series of features to really make your lives easier. It is one click to create the community, and it comes with a preset image, thumbnail, description, name, title, all of that. Of course, you can edit these and change these to really make it fit your organization better, if that makes sense. But if not, if right out of the box, it's ready to go. And we'll talk some more about these other features, but we've made it a lot easier for you to manage your membership. We've given you a bunch of tools to really engage the community and introduce a number of knowledge features that are super helpful for your employees who are trying to make sense of this new technology. And one point that I want to make here before we move on is that if you have an existing Copilot community in your organization, you say, man, I really missed the boat here. Like, how do I get this? The answer is you can have it too, right? All you have to do is go through that one-click startup create process. And instead of creating new, you have the ability to connect an existing community to this Copilot adoption template. And it will bring in all of these great new features, but it will leave your membership intact, your name and community name and image intact, and content intact. So it will really just add all these benefits to it if you already have one going. So let's go ahead and dig in, talk a little bit first and foremost about managing the membership of the community. You can do this on your own if you wish, but we've also made it easier for you through suggested membership. And so what we've done here is we're suggesting members for this community based off of people in your organization who have Copilot licenses assigned to them. So that will show up in here and will show the suggested number, and you can either go through them individually or you can one click to add them all. And then in terms of engaging your community, right? Oftentimes, it's like, oh gosh, how do I get this conversation started? Or how do I get people talking? We've introduced conversation starters in the UI, but we've also brought a series of suggested content to you. It is actually aligned to work with the Amplify campaign if you're using that as part of your rollout strategy. And so we have, at least as the starter content, a series of articles, longer form content around the different Copilots available within the app. So Copilot in Word, Copilot in Teams, Copilot in PowerPoint, etc. And then a series of shorter tips and tricks to get the conversation started and to get people trying out the Copilot in these different apps. And as we move forward and as Copilot continues to evolve, we'll be continuing to invest in new suggested content for you. And again, because this space is evolving so rapidly. We know it's hard for people to stay on top of what's happening, to even know what to post. And so that's the real benefit behind suggested content, is that it just takes the load off. And finally, want to talk about a handful of features that really, again, help you scale the support for your organization. This is all around access to knowledge. So the very first one is that if an employee comes into the community and starts to ask a question, as they start to type, they're going to start to see related questions surface to them. And these can be questions within the community, but also questions asked elsewhere. As long as it's related and it has good information, we're going to surface that and try to connect people to information as quickly as possible. The second is we've introduced a new feature in the right rail of the community. It's called Top Q&A, and that helps people find the most frequently asked and the top questions fast, right? And again, you can see the obvious support here is that instead of a community manager having to mention or connect somebody every time a question is answered or asked, and flooding the community with questions that are just duplicates, right? You're going to cut the middle person out of that entirely and get the person who needs the knowledge connected directly to that knowledge as quickly as possible. And finally, you may have elements of the rollout or use of Copilot that are specific to your organization. And so we've also provided a new feature called Intelligent Importer that GA'd last year. And that enables you to create Q&A pairs in your community to seed the community based on documents that you have. So you can upload a document and we'll auto extract the Q&A pairs, create them, and you can choose which ones to publish. And then those will be ready to go in your community for people who arrive. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Wole to talk about building knowledge more generally. But again, just want to give this one last plug. If you were thinking about rolling out Copilot in your organization, we have this ready-made community for you. If you already have one, think about connecting it, because we're going to be continuing to invest in this space and help you make the transformation that you want to see in your organization possible. All right. Thank you. And over to Wole.
Okay. Hopefully I have control now. Do I? Okay. So, good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Irewole Akonde. I'm one of the PMs with Viva Engage, and I focus on the knowledge. And let me know once y'all can see my screen, because the presentation has been going so well. So I thought, why don't I do live demos? So this is the way. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, fantastic. And like I said earlier, I really love reactions, so give me all of them. So thank you so much. So why are we looking at Engage as a knowledge sharing platform? So I think one of the quotes you might have seen from the blog was just really around how important it is right now in this age of AI to make sure we are validating knowledge that are within organizations. And right now we're introducing the concept of, community experts. You might have seen me in the chat asking everyone to assign community experts. And the reason why we're encouraging people to assign community experts is because community experts can then help validate, verify knowledge to make sure like the knowledge within your Viva Engage community is actually trustworthy. So this is the reason why we're doing it. So we have a few reasons about why this specific time.
Hey, Wole, sorry to interrupt you. Could you just reshare quickly again? Everybody said it's flashing. Okay, try one more time.
Let me try it one more time.
Oh, now it's really flashing for me. You want me to share and you just take control? Or I can share from my screen. Okay, let's try that.
I tried taking control and it didn't work. So
okay.
We'll
see.
See.
Oh, it's fine now. Fine now. Oh, great. Now what did we do? All right, I'll stop sharing. You take it again, and we'll see if it works.
Okay.
Thanks.
Let's see.
I know, I threatened it. It just takes a second to load. Okay, there it goes. It's perfect. Great. Okay.
It's perfect? Fantastic. Yep. So, why are we building these features right now? Like I mentioned, we want to really increase the trust and utility of knowledge you have within Viva Engage. The other thing we want to do is that we want to actually empower subject matter experts. They can actually make sure they endorse the right answers, verify them, and all of this goes into Copilot. And now you have answers within Copilot that are verified and validated. So let's talk a little bit about a loop. If you've been with Microsoft for a while, you understand we love our loops. So I'll talk a little bit about what the knowledge experience within Viva Engage looks like. The first thing you want to do is really around expert assignments. You want to make sure you can actually assign subject matter experts within your communities. The next thing is encouraging your employees like, hey, we have communities that now have these people that can answer your questions, that can provide knowledge about whatever the topic is. And now with experts already assigned, they are able to mark things as best answer, provide responses, mark things as verified answers. All of this information is then ingested into Copilot's SCD. And when you now use Copilot to search, you can find this engaged information, this knowledge, these verified answers within that. And if you can't find that information within Copilot to search, you go right back to Engage, where you have experts that can provide you with this insight that you need to get answers to your question. So moving forward, I'll talk a little bit about who can be a community expert. Then I'll switch tact, and then I'll be doing a straight demo. Like I said, it has been going so well, I said, why don't I try it? So what are some characteristics of community experts? So the people you want as community experts in your communities are people that are trusted by peers. They're usually very helpful, very approachable, and then they try to engage within the communities. An easy way to identify, these community experts is just really like either observing behavior within your existing community, knowing actual subject matter experts that exist within that community, and the last thing is around peer recommendations. People that have been helpful to their peers, helpful to folks in the community, are usually great as community experts. And if you think about who are some people, who are some personas, and I think the major thing we want to talk about here is when we think expertise, people think super high level, technical fellow, some level of exec. We don't want you to think that. We want you to think about people that can help to move the needle on knowledge sharing within your organization. So think someone that's a facility specialist. You think logistic coordinator if you work in the shipping and handling business. You're thinking like communications managers that can provide the best way for external comms. So these are the kind of roles that you can think about that work as a community expert. So once again, they do not have to be high-level execs or high-level technical fellows. They can be people that can provide information that are useful within that particular community. So going forward, I'm going to do a demo. And the demo is going to be pretty fun. So let me know if you can see my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep,
oh my God,
we got it.
Oh, I'm not seeing my reactions. It's breaking my heart. But so the other thing we'll talk here. So in Viva Engage, once you come into a community, the first thing I'm going to show is around assigning an expert. This is the empty state. So you have the community expert section that is visible to just community admins. So once you're in a community, only community admins can see this particular thing. And until you actually assign an expert within a community, no one else in the community can see that experts are available. So that's a decision we made because we wanted the community admin to be empowered to make that decision. And within this experience, we've provided some information. If you want some context on, okay, who are these community experts? We've provided some support documentation that you can leverage to see that information, and you can access that directly from the assignment model. Assigning an expert is super easy. A click of a button, a click of a button, a click of a button. And once you're done, you can remove them just as easily. Remove as expert, remove as expert. So I am going to switch to a more active community that can show you what an engaged state within like Viva Engage looks like and how that works. So once you come into Viva Engage, and this is the Viva Engage Customer Connection community, if you're not a part of it, join it. It's the best place for you to get engaged knowledge. So you come here, you can see the folks that have been assigned as community experts. We have Allison, as you well know, she loves this stuff. She's probably the best and most knowledgeable person here. You can see the list of community experts that we have. And if I wanted to add someone as a community expert, I can do the same thing from this experience, mark as an expert, and they now get like this lovely new label that's called community expert, and it follows them around the community. So anytime I see the community expert label, he lets me know that like this is someone that offers specialized knowledge within this particular community. So let's talk a little bit about what are some of the things, now you've assigned community experts, how do you actually get them interacting, engaging, doing the work, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is the question type post. So the question type post is the best way for you to make sure you have the knowledge within an organization chronicled and easy to find, right? So it gives you the ability to endorse accurate responses by marking best answer or verified answer, which I'm going to demo in a little bit, and gives you the ability to upvote, makes it easy to find, questions or knowledge that are not attended to within your organization, right? So I'll take an example, right? So let's say a question like, how would I prevent community members from adding topics, for example? I think I've answered that question before, right? So this is the question I've answered before in the community. And as you can see, I think Adrian talked a little bit about related questions. You can see questions that are related to this particular. So now rather than asking that question again, I can go directly here to see, oh, okay, so someone asked, how do you prevent members from adding topics to existing posts? And yay, community experts, I answered. So now you can see like this is a verified answer, and I'll show you how the experience works. And this way I don't have to ask that question again. So going back, I can then say, okay, I got the answer I needed. I don't need to ask this question again, right? So I just close that out and my life is easier. So this is one way that, like, having a question type post, you can see these related questions. You don't have to ask questions that have been answered before. So moving on, there are a few things that you probably want to know about, like the question post type. If you have a community where you want to provide support, if you want to have people come in there to get specific knowledge about a topic, you can actually change the default type within your community to be the question post type. So how you do that is coming in here to settings. So once you go to settings, you can scroll down, and in this particular experience where you see publisher and feed, you can pick what you want your default publisher to be. You can have that be a discussion, and you can have that be a question. And what that does is now when someone is coming into a support community, what you do is they can go directly, ask the question, find related questions, and it makes your life really, really easy for them to get that done. In addition to that, if there's a conversation or a discussion that you feel like would have been better served, for example, as a question, you can actually come here in the three dots and we can actually change, discussion post to a question. What this does is that it gives you those superpowers that we talked about. It gives people the ability to upvote a response. It gives people the ability to mark responses as best and verified. You can only get that when you use the question post type. So now that I have done two things, I've been able to assign some community experts. I've been able to show people how to answer questions. As an expert, how do I leverage my community to make sure I can get my work done? So we have these new filters. And if you look in the filters, we have old conversations, new conversations. We have questions with no best answer, questions with no response. So I'm just like feeling trigger happy. I want to make sure we get things marked correctly. What are the things I need to get going? So I go to questions with no best answer. So I can see, okay, what are the questions within my communities that don't have responses? So I see Raymond has a post here. Oh, it's a good question. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but I know someone. I can go ahead and tag them in this particular question. Well, let me go to a question that I probably have some knowledge on. So Kevin here has asked. Kevin is one of my favorite people. I work with him all the time, and he always posts really, 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 really good feedback here for us to be very engaged. So Kevin is asking, what exactly is the status on new design reactions? And here I want to answer, and I'm like, oh, Spencer's already answered this question. Spencer, for those that don't know, presented last week, and he's our conversations PM. I know he's knowledgeable about the topic, and he's provided very helpful response. I have the option to then decide, okay, as a community expert, as a community admin, how do I endorse his answer? So when I click on let me zoom in here. a little bit. So when I click on this button that used to be just to mark best answer, we've provided two options. I can mark it as a verified answer. As a community expert, I know that Spencer is the person that should be able to answer this question. He's provided a very helpful response. I can either mark it as a best answer right here, and then it gets the best answer tag. But now I know that like Spencer is the only one that can answer this accurately. He's done that. I can go ahead and change that to a verified answer. And the cool thing about verified answer is that verified answer like ladders up a little bit higher in search scenarios. So once you search, once you're in a related question, an answer that is verified is the most recognizable answer. It comes up at the top of the list. And you can see this, it follows the post everywhere in the community. And when you hover over it, you can tell that like this was verified by me, who happens to be a community admin within this particular community, and you know this answer can be trusted. So this is like a great way to find, to do your work as an assigned community expert within Viva Engage. So one of the other cool things that we have within communities now is the top questions community, which you might have seen a little bit in the Copilot section. But a good thing you can do here is see the top questions that you have within a community. And these are the top 10 questions over the last 90 days within that particular community. And I think one thing you can do here is come into the top questions section and you can see like, okay, what are the things people are engaging with? And based on that, can we provide an insight? Can we mark things as best answer? Or, okay, we have a community expert that's responded here. And you can actually filter that information and just get a feel for what is trending within your organization. And this has been super, super helpful, especially in communities like the Copilot community, where you have people asking the same questions over and over and over again. As a community admin, you can decide, okay, these are the things that we're hearing. Can I provide resources that can then be pinned within this community to then answer those questions? So those are the things that you can get from leveraging a feature like Top Questions. So I know I have a few minutes. So now I said, we have the Engage Copilot that is available. And I was like, okay, let me show that Copilot is ingesting knowledge from Engage. And I think you all remember the question I marked as verified from Spencer. So I'm going to go ahead and try out this question, right? So if I go into the Engage Copilot, work for me. Yes, it did. Okay, so I go ahead and I ask the question, what is the status of the rollouts of new reactions, of the new reactions design? So putting it in Engage Copilot. Let's see. Yes, it's finishing up. And come on, you got me. Today's the day. Yes. Okay, so it's been able to provide some good feedback, right? The rollout on the new is still in progress. According to the latest update, the rollout has taken a little bit longer than expected, right? And you can look at the reference, and the reference that you can see here is Kevin's post. So I can go to Kevin's post and read more about it if that's what I'm interested in. And yes, exactly that. So I can see that like the status of it. I can see that like, Spencer, it's been marked as best answer. And just like that, the loop is complete. So if I didn't find an answer to this question, I could go right back into that community, right? And ask that question again. So when we say engage information is now ingested into Copilot, this is what we mean. By having it available on the back end, we can then have this infer on some of the questions that we ask within the Engage Global Copilot. And we're doing work to make sure that's available across M365. I think that's gone GA, but yeah, so that's about it. If you enjoyed this particular demo, the demo gods were with me today, even though the team's gods almost weren't, but thank you so much. I think that's about it, but one last thing actually. So I've seen a lot of questions around the community summary. And I think if you go here to community analytics, you can see here the analytics for your community over the last 28 days, over the last year. And Alison is going to dive a little bit deeper into this, but I just want to show this section that is directly related to my job, right? So, and that section here is around knowledge sharing. So here you You can see how many answers have been provided within your organization, what are the total number of questions in the last 30 days, and you can see how we're doing. So within this particular community, we're at a 94% answer rate. So that means for every 100 questions we get, 94 at least answered. We have 32% marked as best answer. The time to get the first answer is within 2 hours, and we've helped a bunch of people, right? So now if you have any questions for Viva Engage, you know where to go. You go to the Viva Engage customer community, and you know at least within 2 hours you get a first response. And you can see here some of the top conversations. You can filter by questions only. You can see the things that are covered there. And I think I'll hand that off to Allison to do a little bit deeper dive on the analytics section.
Great. Let's see if I can take over and do the PowerPoint live. Give it a second. Thank you so much. That was incredible. Great demo. Somebody said it was the best live demo they've ever experienced. I think I posted a GIF of the Circle of Life from Lion King. I feel like it was great to be able to show kind of the beginning and end. Thank you all so much for your feedback during it. I know there was a lot of questions of like, when is this available? Or, you know, majority of this is available right now. And then some of it is available to our CNC folks as well. So really excited. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to round out the last, I literally can't believe it. We only have 10 minutes left together. Everyone, thank you so much for staying. Do not leave yet. We have a few last things that we definitely want to share and end with, but you know, kind of going on the heels of Wole and kind of this community analytics, we actually just updated these brand new, and we posted a very detailed blog about all the different kind of aspects and who has access to these, where you can do this. I think the number one asked is, can we export community analytics? Yes, you should be able to export them now. I know a lot of you tinker with them and pull them out and do lots of different things with them. That should be live. And then coming very, very soon is the ability to export, is the ability to have custom date ranges. I feel like every single one of my customers asks for custom date ranges. So super excited that that is on its way. The other kind of new things that are in the community analytics, if you have premium or the Viva CNC licenses, the additional licenses, is some of the knowledge data, as well as some of the ability to find the different dormant conversations, the ones that nobody has responded to. And that truly makes a great community, is when, you know, somebody has been brave enough to post a question or post a response for you all to kind of know and be directed either by using the filters or kind of this community optimizer to find those questions or those posts that really still need attention. So these are available. And then coming really, really soon is custom date ranges, sentiment analysis, and themes for communities. So I've seen some of this. I think you might have saw a snippet of this in our customer community kind of from our side. This is really exciting, and I know a huge customer ask for many, many of you. The other thing that got a facelift for many of you is the conversation analytics. And if you didn't already know, community admins, you are able to see the analytics for each conversation that is under your community as well. So you can see those conversations and you can kind of start to see. And then, of course, if you have additional licensing like the CNC or the Viva, you have additional capabilities within that conversation. Like you can see where people are viewing, where are they reacting from, where are they contributing from, are they on Teams, web, mobile, Outlook, where are they kind of doing that? So you have additional capabilities. And then coming next to is the sentiment and theme analysis and conversation, especially helpful for those really long conversations with lots and lots of different replies as well. Something that I've worked with different community managers in the past is we've created a scorecard, and this could look different based on your business goals and objectives, but kind of taking the data that you get kind of out of the box and mapping it to your business objectives. what does good look like? What does it look like? And sure, we can tell you a couple of ideas and a couple of engagement statistics, but not all communities are going to be measured the same. So maybe Q&A is really important for that shared services communities that we talked about at the beginning, but probably a little bit less different for the dogs at Microsoft or the women at Microsoft communities. So feel free, take a snapshot, use something like this as a sample as you're starting to think about what is that baseline, and then start to measure it month over month over what this could look like, or even just quarter over quarter. I think a quarter is a great amount of time to start planning your events, your content, the different conversations that are going on. All right. Last, as we wrap up here, I literally cannot believe our time is almost done. What additional questions do you have? Our Q&A and the chat has been on fire. We are doing our best to answer them. We will update the blog post with as many questions as we can as part of that. And then if you haven't already, would you just take a couple of minutes today to write down something that you are going to take away, that you're going to try in the next week or in the next month, that you learned today? Hashtag VE Masterclass and tag me on LinkedIn or post it in our customer community as well. I already saw a few of you really excited. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of you at random, and we're going to spend some one-on-one time together. And so we can do kind of a community community health check with myself and maybe some of the other folks from the product group. So we can help say, okay, what's the status of your community? What could we be thinking about? How can you take this to the next level? So if you haven't done that, do that. We'll pull that name by the end of the week. We've got lots of resources related for you. Additionally, we've got PowerPoint decks of how to do this. We also have a similar session that we hosted at M365 conference last year. We also have so many of you ask me, how does Microsoft do this internally? And I know a few of you looked and saw Wole's demo and was like, wow, that looks so different than what we're doing. If you want to know the secrets of how Customer Zero, or AKA Microsoft, is doing this, grab this ebook, download this. We've worked with the Customer Zero teams. They have an entire chapter about how they do community management, a whole section about how they're doing Copilot and Copilot champions. It's an excellent resource. I promise you there's lots of visuals and checklists and lots of things kind of pulled together. Okay. So where are you? You checked 1 if you joined us for the week 1 masterclass. Check 2. You've also joined us for the community masterclass. If you haven't yet signed up for the additional ones, again, you don't need to come to every single one. We are happy to have you. We would love for you to join. We will also post all the resources, the recordings, if you can't make it. But next up is our corporate communications one. So we'll really be centered on executive leadership communications, and from that corp comms perspective, kind of coming next. And then of course, we'll do a training and adoption, live events, and analytics too. I know we've mentioned it a few times, and I hope you have FOMO if you're not already a part of our customer community, but we definitely want you to be a part of it. We are going to be doing some exclusive events. We share lots of different things of what's coming, what's next, what's new. You'll get a little bit of sneak peeks, so feel free to join us with that as well. And then the last thing, kind of doubling up on that corporate communications, in March, we're hosting a webinar with one of our VPs of communications who's going to be talking all about AI for communicators. So if that's not you, and maybe it's someone else at your organization, we would love to kind of have them have the conversation or hear what we are doing at Microsoft from a corp comms perspective and Copilot and AI and what that looks like. All right. That is all I have for today. We've also posted in our customer community, I know, one last plug, we've posted a prompt guide of prompts that you can use in any Copilot that you have access to for community managers. So it's just for the folks in our customer community. So we posted that guide. We'd love for you to be a part of that community as well. And we've just posted that. So take a look and see that. And yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again. If you could hit the reactions for our presenters, they did a great job. so excited to hear and see all of the takeaways that you had and the things. Good luck with your communities, and don't be a stranger. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.